So we are starting a new year,
A new adventure.
a new adventure,
Um, by the way, this is Kevin,
and that's Robyn.
and we're the Schwobs.
Yep. And we are starting a new podcast about our life journey.
Almost 22 years
Almost 22 years.
of marriage.
Yep.
So about 24 years together.
24 years together.
Wow.
Yep.
We've survived.
We have survived. And we've had good, bad,
And the ugly. Beyond ugly.
Yep. And that's what we're here to talk about. So
talk about our life.
Of how we met.
How we got married.
We got married.
That's a duh.
This is true.
Some of the fun happened
leading up to it.
And the day of.
And the day of. We're going to talk about our marriage, our
trials and
triumphs, and how God has been in the midst of every single step.
Yep.
At the time, we didn't see it, but looking back,
oh my head,
oh my gosh, it blows me away. And we've talked about all that he's done for so long.
Yeah.
And
we want to share
it. And so that's what we're here to do. We just wanted to give you guys kind of an intro of who we are.
And what our podcast will be about. So, like we said, we're Kevin and Robyn. I am originally from New Hampshire.
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
He's originally from New York. He was born in New York. I tease him about that all the time. But you spent how many years in?
13.
13 years. And
I've been down south for 40 plus years of my life. So.
But you claimed Dallas as your home more than anything else because the first 7 years you lived in 3 or 4 different places?
We went from New York to Chicago to Wisconsin and finally settled, I guess, in Dallas. But that's where I consider that I was raised. So that's why I say Dallas is home. But been in Georgia for 32 years now.
I've been down here you
just passed 20.
Do the math.
25. Well, you just passed 24. This is your 25th year coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you say so. 98, right?
Yep.
Yep.
December 26, 98.
Right.
See, I remember the day I came down because it was the day after Christmas.
Yep.
So, just in case you hadn't grasped that, I am not a dates person. Not at all. I don't remember dates. I have to link them to something. That's normally a man thing. I understand. He's the date person. He can tell you approximately, at one point, he could tell you the day we went on our first date. Can you still?
Well, the first date that I consider was July 11th.
And that was?
That was the week after the 4th of July conversation.
Was that was Apple?
Chili's.
Chili's.
Yep.
That was Chili's.
Yep.
Of course you would remember that day.
The infamous
2 years or I walk.
Or I walk. Yeah.
Yeah. On our first date, I made it clear where my intentions were. I had dated a lot, and I was serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to make it known, and he didn't run away that day.
No.
You stuck through dinner because I said that before we ordered drinks.
Mm-hmm.
You like to say
before the waitress came over, she had put that out there.
And he's still stuck
And
around
I still stuck around. Yeah.
22 years later.
22 years later. We've been through thick and thin, and
Let's see. We've moved
two,
to
three, four, five.
5
Right?
times.
Yeah.
Well,
Apartment, house.
apartment, house. So 6 times.
6 times. Yep.
To our son's chagrin.
Yep.
We've wow. I didn't
We've
6
been in
times.
Noonan. Yeah, we've moved 6 times. Gosh, I
Didn't
didn't
realize that.
no.
Yeah.
But I think we have landed where we're going to be.
Yeah, I do too.
When we moved down to Noonan 6 years ago, 7 in July.
Yep.
I thought, why Noonan? Why a dinky little town below Hartsfield? Nothing down there, blip on the radar, and I can't imagine living anywhere else.
I love Noonan. It's Kevin keeps saying it's a little bit of Atlanta, a city and
just
a small
enough of a
town.
big town and just enough of a small town.
Yeah, great downtown, very historical area at times. So yeah.
But we've seen God had so much planned for us coming down here.
Yes, he did.
And
we'll get to that
later on down the road.
Down the road.
Yep.
But we have dealt with, let's see, fights before marriage.
Yep. We've had, for a guy who doesn't like conflict, boy, did he dive into a relationship of conflict.
Yeah. I don't hold my tongue very good. Very well, I should say.
Our first year was bumpy. And
there's been a few bumpy years.
Yeah, a few.
On and off. And I think part of it is because I don't hold my tongue. I don't think things through before I speak. I just tell you what I think. I just tell you how I feel. I'm not afraid to throw it out there. And
she's not afraid to rock the boat.
No. and Kevin's the exact opposite. One thing that we are very different in also is the way we deal with things. Kevin is an overthinker. He thinks it through
all the time.
I use the analogy of a pool to describe the two of us. For Kevin, he walks around the pool 6, 7, 8 times, steps in, checks the temperature.
Got to make sure there's water in the pool.
Yeah. You definitely make sure there's water in the pool. You check the temperature by the temperature. Mm-hmm. You check the temperature by feeling it.
Yep.
You look up to see if you really want to do the diving board. And then you kind of decide you're going to weigh in.
Mm-hmm.
I get on the high-rise, jump, and then decide, oh, is there water in there?
As she's halfway down.
That's basically how I moved down here. I mean, it was just after my brother and his wife got married, and I was looking at a friend of mine who I used to work for moved down here, and as a joke, she sent me a singles magazine, Christian singles magazine. And I was like, that's the type of guy I wanted. He was not in that magazine.
No.
Met through church a year after I moved down here.
Mm-hmm.
And
after you had totally sworn off guys.
After I had totally sworn off guys. Yep. And but I went to one of my favorite places to go think and pray, and I came home, and the next day I bought a ticket to leave the day after Christmas. No job, no place to live.
$200 to your name.
$200 to my name. I did have a place to stay. I shouldn't say that.
This is true.
Because I moved in with my aunt and uncle in Cornelia, Georgia. They were gracious enough, and I went through some bumpy times there, but I found a church. I found Dunwoody.
I'm done waiting.
And I remember after meeting him over a tire, a flat tire.
Thank you, Kinsley.
Yes, thank you, Kinsley. Kinsley changed the tire. Well, Kevin and I can't
Gave
say
each other a
talk.
hard time.
Yeah, I was going to say we bantered.
Yeah.
We bantered. And that's been a big part of our relationship. I think that's something that's helped us, is the fact that we can give each other a hard time.
We can make light of things,
Yep.
but also get through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is very true that opposites attract.
Yeah.
We have truly been the perfect blend for each other.
And that's a God thing.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely no doubt.
So I met Kevin. He made it clear after my flat tire got changed, we all went to Boston Market.
Boston Market. Yeah.
For lunch. And he's like, I'm buying you your lunch. I'm like, no, you're not. I am a very strong, independent woman, and you ain't giving me nothing.
Mm-hmm. I said, you have a tire to buy.
And I said, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. To which I introduced her to a famous line of Carl Schwob. He used to tell me, once a business deal is done.
Shut up. I've heard that a few times through our life together.
Yeah, once, maybe twice.
Or more.
Yeah. But.
So I let him buy me lunch. I went home, got the tire fixed. You have to understand, I bought $1,000 car, so I would have a vehicle. A Ford Taurus.
Point A to point B.
Yeah.
An 89.
Yeah, 89 Ford Taurus. So it was on its last leg when I got it, but I ran it into the ground.
Yep. In my parents' driveway.
Yep.
I remember Jerry came out, looked at me, and said, don't expect that she's going to go home in this car tonight. Yep.
Yeah.
But we have, it is so true that we go through detours in life. And we went through detours almost from the get-go.
We did. We had some really easy ones, and then there's been others.
We've had some rocky ones.
We've had some real rocky ones. We've had some off-road boulder
that would normally drive relationships to the brink.
Yeah.
And not to say that we haven't. We have been to that brink.
Oh, yeah.
On more than one occasion.
Yep.
But we've seen God over and over provide in his time and not ours.
Yes.
And
yeah.
You'll hear us talk about 2020 later on in the podcast. But in 2020, God was truly showing, especially me, but both of us, that I am going to provide for you when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it happened in our time, it would have not been when we needed it.
Yeah. Well, just think, I'm looking at your mouse pad and pictures of our boys, and I say boys because we said, we have one child, but we also have a dog.
Yep.
And he's
you call it a loved dog.
I call it a loved dog.
He is clearly a spoiled dog.
Both him and our son call him spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I will say he's more spoiled than the child. Yeah, well, he's my dog.
We're gonna talk about.
We're gonna be talking about our child.
Our child.
Our miracle one.
Our miracle one.
Yeah.
It took 3 years.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about being open for adoption.
Yep.
And God saying, "Yeah, okay, but not yet."
Yeah. 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 Gosh. There's so many things that we have walked through.
Mm-hmm.
We have walked through the death of your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've walked through surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
Both you and our son.
Yeah. We've had our share.
Yeah.
And you claim that it was to get your attention.
Yep,
We were
mom.
fighting for your attention.
Yep, brand new newborn and husband in the first year of our son's life.
Mm-hmm.
3 to 4.
He wasn't even a month old, and I was in the hospital.
Yeah. Yep. You thought I wasn't
No,
giving you enough
I take
attention.
that back. It was.
It's 2
He
months.
was 2 months old. Yep.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I went into the hospital, and first Halloween is when I came home.
Yep.
Mhm.
That was an interesting night. But we've also been through job loss,
Yeah. Both of us out of a job at the same time.
disabilities that has made it hard for you to get
Mm-hmm.
back on track with a job.
You know, and something that God showed me later on is that He used my job loss to get us down here.
Yeah, I believe that. I took a job down here through a company I was working part-time with,
Mm-hmm.
and became a manager. And we'll get more into that in another episode. You know, like we said, we're here just to kind of introduce ourselves. Yeah, I can't talk. Introduce ourselves.
Yep.
And give you just an overview of life in the Schwob house.
Yeah. Our crazy, unpredictable wow of life, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot of things that later on down the road we've just gone, wow.
Well, to use a term I don't like, that my sister used today.
Yep.
Because so I put up some pictures, and my sister made the comment in typical Schwob fashion, because there's very little of us being typical, smiling, blah blah blah. You know, and I responded with, "There is nothing typical about us. We are not your typical family. We've dealt with some ins and outs. We've let's see, even before we were married, we dealt with your grandfather's death. We dealt with
your grandfather's. Well, we dealt with your grandfather's death in 2003. Yeah, so we were married at that point.
We dealt with your grandmother's death.
And your grandmother, Grandma Minor.
Grandma Minor. My good genes, 99 years old. Working in the garden.
Yep.
Till almost the end. So we've supported each other through things.
Yeah.
We've questioned each other through things.
A ton of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one of the things that we have made clear from the outset is that if we're not on the same page, we don't move forward.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I think we both, really took serious. Our wedding was a little different in the fact that we did our own vows, and we had the traditional vows as well.
Yeah.
Normally it's either one or the other. We did both. I think Joe, who
Joe Beckler
officiated our wedding, knew the importance of doing the traditional vows. And Kevin was born with water on the brain, we'll do the common term.
Yeah.
And had some difficulties growing up. Didn't walk till what? You were 3 years old?
Didn't walk till I was 3. My parents were told that I had a 50-50 chance of walking or talking. Well,
he walks and talks, trust me.
Yep. I had
seizures.
I had a seizure disorder, and we'll talk about the healing of that seizure disorder in another podcast.
Yep.
But we'll talk about what caused a hip to break.
Yep. all this to say, I think Joe realized how important it was for better or worse, for
Hmm.
sickness and health to be in ours, because I knew I was not walking into a relationship where the guy was 100% healthy. There were
I've had
problems, there
limitations.
was complications.
Hmm.
And so, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, I think there have been days when we have like hung to those words.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
when I say punching, punch through it, not literally, but almost.
Yeah. I mean, she has seen me have a seizure.
Yep.
Granted, a nurse's sense of humor didn't help the matter, but
I mean,
hey.
thankfully, we were at the hospital when it happened, but I
Mm,
was visiting him. And, but going back, we knew it wasn't going to be easy. We were set up to be informed
mhm.
that marriage is hard, marriage is difficult, and the only way to get through it is together. And together for us is the two of us plus Christ.
Mm.
And so
1 + 1 truly does equal 3.
yes, yeah. And it has been through that we have gotten through some things, and we're going to share more about that
Hmm.
later on. So what one thing do you think, because I've talked a little bit about you
Hmm.
and your growing up and your medical condition.
Hmm.
Um, what's one thing you think they should know about moi?
For you, your first detour of life in general was your dad.
Yeah, yeah. My father passed when I was 2.5 years old.
Hmm.
Yeah, I grew up with a very strong, well-determined mother who raised myself and my two siblings. I'm the baby of three, and he's an only. What does that say? Right there.
Right,
Um,
right.
he's an only, and I say this in love, just in case certain people are watching. Um,
And you know she will be.
I know she will be. I love my mother-in-law, but he's a mama's boy. But here's
Yep.
the thing: my son's a mama's boy too.
Hmm.
So, but and so he grew up with a strong and dependent woman as well. We both
Yeah,
had
we did.
strong mothers.
Hmm.
For two different reasons. Your dad left when you were 14,
They divorced when I was 16.
16.
But and we'll talk about this later on as well. They had a difficult 19-year
Yeah,
marriage.
very
Um,
difficult. And,
and
you know, so I just want to mention that because of the fact
Mhm.
that you had a strong, caring, supportive, loving. Your mother is the most loving woman I know.
Mm.
I know where you get your. He's an incredible supporter. He has supported me in anything I've done, and that comes from his mom.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
she she. I think even if it was ugly, she would tell me it was beautiful just to support
She
me.
has.
I love her. She edits. I write, and she edits my posts for me.
Mhm.
She reads my book, but she doesn't edit it. She said she got too involved. She forgot what she was supposed to be doing. But so you grew up with a mom who took care of things
Mhm.
and depended on herself and God. And I grew up with a mom who took care of things, who depended on herself and her
Mm.
oldest daughter, my sister. Um, and my mom and I did a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um, in my family, what do you like to say about my love
You
language?
know, the thing that I like to, well, and it's not to say that I like to say, but there are two fluent languages in the Swain household. Sarcasm
Okay.
is the first, English is the second.
Yeah.
And I think for your family, sarcasm was fluent because that's how you guys got through the hard stuff.
And dealt with things. Yeah. So
And sarcasm just was not in my house.
no, you
I
cringed
think,
every time you've gotten used to me. Of
oh
course,
my gosh.
I think, and you've even said I've toned down, and
Yeah.
that's by the grace of God.
Well, it's because my mom just was not sarcastic.
No.
I think, my mom, for all that she's been through, she wanted everybody to know that everything was okay.
Yeah.
Even when they weren't. And I've kind of carried that tendency over, and you've been good to show me that it's okay not to be okay.
I had to learn that myself.
Mhm.
But I grew up in a church where everything was supposed to be okay. I grew up with a mom where things weren't okay.
Mm.
My brother and I did not get along at all. I felt very much not wanted and very much insecure about everything from school to home life. Hated myself, hated my life.
You
God
kind
just,
of lived out the country song of looking for love in all the wrong places.
yeah, I did that too. But I think I'm Moving On is my favorite of all time song
Yeah.
because I moved on. God helped me move on. And I say this, I think I've said this since day one of our marriage more
Mhm.
than of our dating, but you showed me what love really is.
I remember looking at you and saying, your past is exactly that. It's your past.
Yeah.
And
But not only that, embracing some of the things I went through in my past. And
because you had a lot of trust issues.
I had a lot of trust issues.
It took 10 years for you to accept a compliment from me.
Yeah.
And
I still don't do that extremely
No.
well.
Mm-mm.
I have to agree with him, and that only happens if I'm looking awesome, which doesn't happen much. What you see right now, I'm in a sweater and leggings. This is comfy Bill. This is
Mhm.
me, and this is the thing. Kevin did not fall in love with with me trying to be something I wasn't.
Mm-mm. No,
I didn't fall in love with Kevin trying to be something he wasn't.
no.
I said to him from the get-go, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I think that's been one thing that has been a positive in
Yeah.
us. And I think, he'll give me a hard time and he'll roll his eyes. I'm like, I haven't changed. I'm still the wonderful person I was when you first met me. I'm still the insane person I was when we 1st met.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And we've both changed some. I've unfortunately gone when my hip broke. We went through a lot of struggle.
Yeah, and we'll get
And
into.
we'll deal with that later.
I know we've said that a lot today. We'll deal with that later, but we will.
We're doing a little bit more of an overview than I think what we were intending.
Right.
But that's totally okay. You're just kind of getting tidbits of what's coming down the pipe.
It's intriguing, so you'll come back and hear
That's
us
right.
again.
We're looking at doing 2 podcasts a month.
Yeah.
And in between those 2 podcasts, what we'll do is share on a Facebook page, just kind of what's going on in a week and short things, nothing huge.
Just
Um,
the day in life of the Schwob family.
Day in the life of the Schwobs.
That's boring.
Oh, you'll sleep through them. Not really. But
All depending on the mood of his wife.
or our son.
Yes. Yes.
How quirky he might be. You put him in front of a camera and watch out. But you're gonna hear
you hear about us.
About us.
You're gonna hear about what we've been through, what we've learned from it, how we've grown from it. I mean, this summer I went home to New Hampshire 3 times. My mom's dealing with dementia, and so I went to help out. And God just really showed me some things that I had not dealt with yet. And
that you
so,
thought you had.
yeah, I thought I had. And so it's that kind of stuff, seeing where we've been, what we've done, how we did it, and how God
Mhm.
saw it through us, guys. We we wouldn't be where we are, even in our marriage,
No way.
if our Lord Jesus Christ wasn't part of it. And
And
we ain't pushing it. We're just saying where we are.
that
This is us.
mhm,
And we want to be real.
real.
Yeah. As real as we are. So we would love, thank you first and foremost for joining us. Thank you
Absolutely.
for
Thank you
tuning
for
in.
taking time out of your day.
And let's see what
Um,
we'll start at the beginning of our relationship on
Yeah.
our next,
on our next podcast.
kind of go through our year, year and a half.
We'll start with our year of dating, leading up to the engagement,
And then we'll go from there.
and launch from there.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a ride. And we're excited about this. We really and truly are. I've been tossing the idea of a podcast for a while, but when you brought the idea of us doing it together, I'm like, that's the perfect way to do it.
Because we are a team.
We are. It's not Robyn's story. It's not Kevin's story.
It's our story.
Our story. And our prayer is that what people hear from our story will help them in their story.
Yep.
And so we thank you for hopping on with us and listening to our intro. And we will see you on the next podcast.
See you on the next podcast.
Thanks for coming on.